Our legend begins with a rather unexpected statement that the ancestors of the Hawaiian race came not from the islands of the South Pacific, for the immigrants from that direction were late arrivals there, but from a northern direction, from the land of Kalonikakeke, now known as Alaska.
The people in this valley came from Canada and Alaska, where they have ice and sleds. Used to have a sport where they'd slide down the grassy slopes on a sled.
You know, now that we know a lot more about the history of the Northwest Coast and a lot more about the history of Polynesia, what should we be looking for? I can show you these bird figures that look like the bird figures on Easter Island. You've got things like these bone clubs, and you can find certain bone clubs that are similar in Polynesia. I'm going to do a thing on combs from the Ozette site, and they look just like tattoo combs from Polynesia.
I've come across these Haida people who going around trying to find people who know about the ancient voyaging. With the San Andreas fault line running right up through to Alaska, through the islands, you know, there was a lot of earthquake activity, a lot going on, and now at extreme low tides they were actually finding there were squares of rock or rectangles of rock the size of refrigerators and more that were squared on all sides, and they couldn't understand what these were. They were starting to intrigue them, so they cleaned off all the marine life and they found there were carvings in the stone, and we know nothing of these. We don't know what these symbols are. So they shared a lot of things, and then the elders shared some of their voyaging stories. And then the old lady, she looked at the tohunga, just gave a little nod and said, and he knew to go to the corner where there were 5 talking sticks. And he took each stick in turn and he looked at it. Then he chose one and he brought it back and he gifted it to the old one. Well, they left early the next morning and they had to fly to Vancouver. And when they arrived, their shaman from the village was actually waiting for them. He was there at the airport, and when they came out, the old one was carrying the talking stick, the tuku, and he placed it in front of the shaman, held it like this. And the shaman took it and looked at it and turned it over and looked at it and turned it over and looked at it, held it close, and he wept over it. Because on the stick were carved the symbols that were on the stones that were coming out of the ocean.
Hey ne yanga, hey ya, hey yanga, hey ne yanga, hey ya, hey yo.
Yo, way, yo, way.